Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're gonna be entering another video. Today we're gonna be doing which puncher or which punch out boxer is the biggest cheater. I don't know any. Okay, I'm sorry. I know this is gonna be the biggest normie take ever. I only played Mortal Kombat growing up and Primal, and there's another one, but like the really old ones. That's the only thing I played. It was Primal, it was Mortal Kombat, and I forgot the other one. Tekken? Nope. Just 3 fighting games. Primal, Mortal Kombat, and Killer Instinct. Yes, Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct is also another one I used to play, but not the new one, the old one. I'm talking about like this one here. This type of, like, it looked this way. Like this. This is what I remember seeing back in the day. It was just full pixels. LOL. Yeah. But it's fighting games. Fighting games are just fighting games to me, you know? They're just button combos and who could do them better. And timings. And, you know, it's whatever. Anyways, let's get into this. Yeah. Punch-Out!
Punch-Out is one of Nintendo's longest tenured franchises, using boxing as a template for what essentially boils down to a puzzle game but with punches, as all good puzzles should have to put those Poindexters on our level. Of course, Punch-Out isn't something you should take very seriously since you're going up against magical teleporting Indian men, guys wielding staves in the ring, and someone who thinks it's okay to kick in a boxing match. However, all these guys raise a very valid question. How exactly does the governing body of Punch-Out's boxing world define its rule set? The only way these flagrant fouls would be allowed—
Remember right, this is Little Mac? The reason I know this is because of, what's a Nintendo fighting game? Something Melee. Smash Brothers. Yeah, I did play, on the Nintendo 64, Smash Brothers, I think it was Melee. I think that's the only one I really played that much. Everything else, I only played the newer one, but I don't even know what it was called. That's it.
Is that there was literally no rule set whatsoever. If this is somehow not grounds for at least a point reduction, you're gonna get someone with a knife in their gloves sooner rather than later. So, I wanted to see exactly which Punch-Out boxers are breaking which rules of the sweet science. For this, I'll be looking at specifically Punch-Out's Wii reboot from 2009, since not only is it the best looking, it's the most detailed, and will allow us to see what exactly these racist caricatures are doing to one-up the player. Speaking of the player, however, Little Mac is probably the best place to start. Given the fact he's your everyman from the Bronx, it's safe to assume that Mac is
every man from the Bronx.
And you'd be right.
I've seen the memes.
From his attire to his stance to how he conducts himself in the corner, Mac is following almost every rule in the Unified Rules of Boxing as established by the Association of Boxing Commissions and Combat Sports. There are a lot of unseens that we can assume are followed, like proper fist wrapping, a clean checkup during the weigh-in, and no illegal substances. Although getting back health from Doc eating a chocolate bar is up for debate. However, it's not a perfect record. See, Mac is actually breaking one of the most paramount rules in all of boxing. He's only 17. These fully grown men are unleashing bear hugs, Hondo rushes, and Dreamland Expresses on someone not even old enough to drink to numb the pain. This would automatically disallow Mac to compete at such a high level of competition and would need him to take another year before professionally fighting. But maybe the WVBA allows him to compete for being a prodigy on Doc Lewis's recommendation?
Maybe.
Either way, despite having the fundamentals down, Mac is just not ready. Some of the I feel I should address is some of the rules of boxing that would automatically disallow these fights from happening. First is weight classes. Mac is 107 pounds, putting him in the light
Damn, he is not heavy.
The first opponent he fights, Glass Joe, is 110 pounds, putting him in the flyweight division. If Mac wants to fight outside his weight class, he's going to need to at least reach the minimum weight for the class he wants to fight.
Jesus Christ, Mac, what happened?
Pounds. How will he ever manage
Somebody gave him that venom.
Stand on his scale a little weirdly. But then you have Bear Hugger, who weighs in at over 400 pounds. That's a weight class so far ahead of Mac's own that it doesn't even exist. He's just heavyweight. Clearly, the WBBA isn't concerned with weight classes and will book freak show fights, which is all well and good for basically everybody except Little Mac. At his weight, it's very likely, unless he plays the most defensive and evasive style ever devised, he will be killed in the ring. Weight classes exist for a reason, and with Little Mac's pitiful reach, he'd never so much as be able to land a hit on anyone. So yeah, Mac would realistically never be able to go up against even Disco Kid,
Sure,
who's as
yeah,
far from
all
Mac
right.
on the weight chart as possible as heavyweight. But let's say, for the sake of this video being made, that Mac could get into the ring. Which of his opponents is
Somehow.
breaking the most
Somehow.
rules? First up is Glass Joe, D- in human form. This poor son of a gun is 99 in the hole with only a single win to his name. Granted, that win is against Nick Bruiser, former world heavyweight champion, so he's probably still riding that buzz.
Yeah.
All the way down to the mat.
Yeah.
Everything about Joe is frankly up to par. His gloves, trunks, boots, corner behavior is all up to snuff. However, where we do have to mark an infraction is in his title defense match. Exclusive to Punch-Out Wii is title defense mode, where you go up against the same 13 boxers from the base.
He looks kind of pathetic. Is he fight? Okay, he does actually throw punches. I was like, he did not take any defensive.
In his intro cutscene after his 100th loss, it's shown that his doctor is so scared for his safety that he won't let him compete without headgear. Now this is a very, very big infraction, possibly the biggest that you could get.
Yeah, the medical is not letting him go.
Forbidden, as you're
Yeah.
one of the most easily punchable parts
He's
of
the first guy you fight.
The only way that headgear is allowed is
Oh.
if both boxers get it. But Little Mac doesn't.
He's got
If
like
Joe's
that
taking
pathetic
reduced
build
damage from
on.
headshots, he has an unfair advantage. However, I'm not totally sure I can count this one. You see, in this game, if you lose 100 times, you get a headgear that you can wear during matches that will reduce damage.
Oh my god.
Now, I will
That's
say that
funny.
if you've taken 100 KO losses in professional fights, a headgear now is about as effective as a mommy kiss on a decapitation, but it raises an interesting question. If Joe is fighting with this because he has to, does it count as an infraction? I mean, he literally can't fight without it thanks to his doctors in the WBBA, so is it wrong?
Nah.
Yes, it is. Unless Mac is also wearing one, you can't wear headgear.
True. Okay,
Now,
okay,
if
yeah.
Mac
Both
also
sides.
loses 100 times and wears it, it's all up to board. Until he does, though, he's got one infraction against him. Von Kaiser comes next, and given the fact that he's shown being bullied by kids, I think Mac will do just fine.
Oh.
Kaiser seems totally up to board,
Okay.
just like Joe. However, it's time to bust out a rule you might not have even thought
That's
about.
interesting lore about the
Kaiser's
game.
Pants are actually the big problem. In boxing, it's required that you wear loose-fitting trunks that extend no further than the knees to better show off potential low blows. Kaiser is not only wearing them below his knees, he's got them tucked into his boots. That's an infraction right there, but given that you've seen his status as a boxing teacher, it's pretty safe to say that he's got no other major oversights in his boxing style.
Okay.
Disco Kid is
Very
after
easy.
him,
Very
and As I
nice.
said before, this guy is massively out of Mac's league.
Okay.
Literally, he's double Mac's own weight. At first, I thought the disco ball in his intro could count as an outside electronic.
That's an
that you can't
interesting
have, but upon closer inspection,
intro,
it's more
bro.
likely than not a part of the bombed-out ghetto gym that these fights take place in. It's a professional fighting
Bro's
arena
a
on Mondays and
dancer,
Thursdays
bro.
and
He's a
Super Bingo
dancer,
on
not a fighter.
weekends. However, you can nail him for using headphones in the corner. He could very easily be receiving outside illegal advice through those. There's just no way to know. However, the biggest offense is in his title defense fight, where he foregoes the boxing shorts for a fashion-forward leotard. While fitting in with his lifestyle choice to take up boxercising, it's also bananas illegal. In boxing, you're required to have a clear line of demarcation between your trunks and your chest with the seam of your boxing shorts. It also needs to contrast as to let your opponent know where would count as a low blow. He's not even wearing pants! Disco Kid is asking for low blows.
This
because
game has
nobody's playing
very
with
interesting
himself.
characters.
Disco Kid comes out swinging with a record-setting 2 infractions. Here's
I thought it was gonna be a boxing game with like, you know, odd individuals, but this is just bro, what are you doing here? Get on the dance floor, bro. You deserve to be at an actual disco, not here. what are you doing?
hoping he doesn't get immediately.
Get trainer. What is that?
There's a lot to unpack with King Hippo. Probably one of the most iconic boxers in the franchise. King
What
Hippo
in
is
the-
also lousy with rule breaks. Before the fight even starts, King Hippo's weight, height, and nationality are all unknown.
What?
By that logic, it's safe to say that he did not come to the required weigh-in and hasn't gotten a proper US sanctioned boxing license. Place of origin cannot be up to interpretation! Before a punch is even thrown,
Gee,
he's
can you
already
even
broken
guess what
two
an interpretation
rules.
would be?
But then we get to the fight, and instantly we got a violation for head covering. That funny little crown may look good in marketing, but you don't get to take it into the ring with you. However, for the rest of the fight, he somehow manages to keep it clean, save for his pants falling down, but that's a more public indecency thing than a boxing thing.
Okay.
In his title defense mode, however, we've got a bigger issue to deal with. His crown is back and actually bigger this time, but the real issue to discuss is what's going on with his stomach. He's wearing body armor.
What?
But would you believe me if I said that the covering for a man's hole isn't the only problem here? Only in minor circuit fights are you allowed to have tape on your body. That's why the big X over his tummy is legal. In a world championship fight, you can't have tape on your person. So taping the manhole covering is a whole new rule break.
Oh my god, this is so dumb. Now that's unfair. Yeah, you don't say.
Hondo is up, and with him we get the most up-to-bar boxer thus far. Literally the only thing you can get him on is his headband. That's because it's a head covering and it might allow punches to slide off easier. Other than that, Hondo's playing the exact same game you are. This is even a problem exclusive to the Wii version, because in the original he fights without a headband. Sadly, though, he's been barred from competition for the most heinous crime that a boxer, nay, a human can commit.
Reading?
Pirating manga. After him is Bear. Given the fact the game was made by a studio, you'd think they make this rep one of the more noble ones.
Hey!
There's a lot to unpack there, Hugger. First is his attire. Just like Von Kaiser, you gotta be showing off those knees. Also, like Disco, there's no distinct line between his upper and lower body. Not to mention, in title defense, he's got a head covering too in the form of his hat.
Got that beanie on him. Lumberjack Joe.
In boxing, you need to either be clean-shaven or have well-groomed facial hair, and certainly no beards are allowed. Something like that acts as a cushion for the jaw. In between rounds, he's also chugging on maple syrup and taking naps. This covers two whole new infractions.
I thought that was
anything other than water while in the corner that you may associate with a certain someone else, and not taking the fight seriously. Not only is it disrespectful, but it's also a breaking of the rules. However, let's get the big one out of the way. He's not fighting alone.
Is there a squirrel?
With him into the ring for title defense.
That's a squirrel!
Let's ignore the animal cruelty because it's shown that the squirrel gave consent.
It's shown that the squirrel gave consent.
And instead focus on the rule of boxing that only the fighters and the ref can enter the ring. You can't do tag team boxing despite how cool that sounds. Bearhugger overall commits 7 different rule breaks in the ring. Boy, I sure hope he isn't immediately shown up.
Oh yeah, instead of okay. Oh, hello.
This one's just f***ing weird. Let's get the elephant out of the room for now and just
Is that clones?
First off is the obvious head covering. Can't do that. Also, he's wearing full pants rather than boxing trunks. It's blasé at this point. And also the last boxer in the game to break this rule, since from here on out we're all playing fair in the pants game. He also leads the rank points, which is incredibly illegal.
He's floating on air!
No, let's just get it over with. Now, in the unified rules of boxing, there isn't anything exactly outlawing the use of magic, but at the same time, I feel like that's only because Evander Holyfield never tried a fucking cup and ball trick in the middle of a match.
Yeah.
So he's obviously cheating with the use of magic, but it's not that easy. Essentially, I need to make up a rule on the fly here.
You gotta make up a rule.
Each different class of magic used? Do I penalize him once under the broad umbrella of magic use?
I don't.
Are clones counted as outside influences?
So they do have clones.
If the clones can't do damage to Little Mac, are they a threat? Ultimately, it came down to this. I'm handing out an infraction for the teleportation, one for the floating, and I'll give him an infraction equal to the maximum amount of clones he uses in one fight, which is in his Mirage dance, where he uses a clone in the back and one to try to pincer you. So I'm giving him an overall 4 infractions for the usage of magic. That lands Tiger with 8 infractions when you add in the use of a flying carpet, which again, isn't covered in the rules, but I'm just pretty confident about it.
Carpet?
As a breath of fresh air, Don Flamenco only gets 2 infractions, with the first being for the toupee that he wears during matches. That's a head covering. That's a covering. As unlikely as strike to the top of the head is, and no matter how it covers,
he's balding.
Infraction is still an infraction.
That sucks, bro. You shouldn't have worn that. You should have just took it with pride.
You might not have even seen coming. In his mid-match corner rests, he'll spritz himself with perfume. There are actually a few reasons that this is illegal.
That's a chemical.
First off, the use of an aerosol can be used as an irritant for the other boxer, as the scent can disorient them. And the actual perfume applied can cause the gloves to slip off. But key amongst these facts is that in the corner, only an adrenaline solution, avatine, and thrombin are allowed to be applied. Unless that thing is filled with liquid adrenaline, he can't have it. I'm also iffy on if this counts as magic, but I'm willing to let it slide as it's outside of the fight. Recreational magic is fine. But thankfully, it looks like the worst of the cheaters are behind us as we move on to the world circuit.
Oh, not bad.
Who's next exactly?
Oh my god, that looks like the Hulk.
Popinski is next, and let's just get the obvious one out of the way to start off with. Just like Bear Hugger's syrup, you can't drink soda
Is that
while
a
in the corner,
drinking,
but he brings a whole
like,
new level
alcohol?
of cheating by doing it in the middle of a match. Not only does this already fall under the previously explained rule, but he's also bringing foreign objects into the ring. Not to mention he's a sloppy drinker, and by getting soda onto his chest, he's applying an illegal substance to his body. I'm sure you know how sticky soda can be, so imagine trying to punch someone drenched in it. But now
That's
for the
not
big one,
soda.
as he's the only boxer
That we know of.
that's doping. We see doctors making him special soda in a lab that lets him pull a truck with his teeth, and he's guzzling 18 bottles of this stuff in a match in his title defense intro. Doping is one of the most frowned upon things to do in sports, and to do it in front of a crowd at the expense of innocent Fanta is almost admirably bold. Bald Bull comes next, and with a head shaped like
What
that, you can imagine he's
are you
gotten a
doing?
few broken rules under his belt. For starters, between rounds, he's shown applying hot towels to himself, which, given the rules of boxing, he can't do.
that's a
You can only apply
pinhead.
a cold towel to yourself if you want to use one, but maybe it could be a cold towel and he's just so hot from boxing that he's steaming? I'm willing to give him that one, but one I can't budge on is his rage
Damn.
issues. Bald Bull just
Pinhead.
sort of rampages and wins fights by accident rather than on purpose. As such, after winning the title in title defense mode, he's so blinded with rage that he attacks the ref, throwing him out of the ring. That doesn't just get you a penalty, that gets
That's
you banned
kicked
for
out.
life.
Yeah.
As well, when he's in the corner, he's shown lifting weights, something I'm not exactly sure on the legality of, leaning on the side of no, but when you get to the point that you start hucking them into the crowd, I feel like that's enough to get the ref to ask you to leave.
Oh,
Super Macho Man comes
threw that
next,
into the
and
crowd
he
is
brings a ton of
crazy.
infractions. One of a kind
Okay.
too, so that's good for him,
I guess. The jewelry?
First off is the gold chain and earrings that he
Okay,
wears.
that makes sense.
Boxing rules dictate that you can't have any piercings, and you need to take them out before a fight starts.
Okay.
Speaking of attire, his trunks have personal branding on them, which is strictly forbidden. Along with that, in between rounds, he's taking questions from the press, which violates rules regarding press distance from the ring, allowing them only on specific sides of the ring from a certain distance. On top of that, he's got a personal electronic with him in the camera that he's taking selfies with.
Oh.
Then there's the foreign object he brings into the ring when he puts sunglasses on to try to hit the Super Macho clothesline. Speaking of which, I think it's fair to say that there's a little bit of a chance that there's outside interference.
Whoa, he
The
actually
flash photography
hits you
only
the
gets
hell
bright when
up.
he goes for the clothesline, and him putting on the glasses acts as a signal to the audience members to start flashing their bulbs to mess with the and then,
That's
presumably thinking that was a
cheating.
little too subtle of a cheat, he just cold clocks the ref. However, this is also a time where there's a non-fighter that gets a rule penalty, as in title defense mode, the lighting manager would earn an infraction by discriminating against Macho Man and not shining the light on him. It doesn't matter if they're fighting, it's still a penalty that's boxing related. Finally is Mr. Sandman, the
Okay.
world champ. And there's a
Oh, that-
reason. This guy's entire strategy is
Mr. Sandman is a dangerously good name. Mr. Sandman. Oh,
sound
that's
completely
actually really
and
cool.
utterly. Makes sense since this guy isn't a cartoon character like the rest. He's a boxer. The most you could levy against him is the fact that in title defense, there isn't a clear line of demarcation between his waistband and trunks. They're both black, so it could be difficult, but the different texture used and the fact that the stripes on the side of the trunks stop at the waist could be enough. Given the fact that no one in the WBBA wants to tell me can't wear his trunks like that, I'm gonna say it's less of a violation and more of a please go and
Don't
change if that's
hurt
okay,
me,
Mr. Champion, sir.
Mr. Handman.
I was
mean,
putting this one off because the highest amount of infractions thus far is Great Tiger with 8.
okay.
This boxer has 19. Aaron Ryan
Okay.
is the first boxer in the world circuit and was made to represent the typical dirty boxer. But they didn't have to go this far with it.
Why? What do they do make
Aaron
him
Ryan may
do?
be a fellow countryman, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna let slip what he tries to pull. Starting off, it's safe to assume that for the whole game, boxers have been getting their gloves the standard way. In a professional boxing fight, boxers get their gloves provided by
What,
the
he has
venue.
brass knuckles?
However, because Aaron Ryan's using loaded gloves, he's clearly bringing them from home. On top of that, we know that he wraps his fists properly, but yet again, that's something that he did at home, and it wasn't inspected by the ref. Bringing these things from home and not having them inspected is 4 penalties already, and that's not to mention the little fact that he has loaded horseshoes in his boxing
Why?
glove. He's planning on killing Little Mac at this pace. On top of that, he's shown throwing out the classic boxing cheats, trying to throw elbows and headbutts at Little Mac, as well as jumping off the ropes for that headbutt. Including that, he's also shown potentially trying to throw the fight by allowing Mac to get free hits in, literally asking him to hit him. No ref would allow that. But that's not it, as Aaron Ryan also attempts to attack Mac before the bell sounds between rounds,
hits a ref.
and in doing such, throws the ref away.
That's
one of the
another
biggest
one.
no-nos in boxing, and it's just one of the nearly 24 infractions that Aaron Ryan accrues. Another thing to note is that there is a difference in the rules regarding intent to cheat and actually cheating. If you load your gloves, that's one strike. Actually throwing a punch is a different one entirely. However, this is all before his biggest infraction in title defense.
What could be better than cheating?
Not only does he steal Mac's gloves from the minor circuit after breaking his old ones, he then goes on to fashion his old gloves into a flail! So obviously, bringing a weapon into the ring as well as using that weapon are illegal.
Does it have the metal still in it?
The glove he's using as a flail is old and ragged, and the rules state that if a glove is in such bad condition, it should be replaced by the venue. So even his cheating is cheating! Even more, when he gets knocked down, he'll attempt to throw one more swing with his weapon, and when a fighter is going down, they can't throw any more punches. The ref has already ruled them down and is waiting to deliver the 10 count. And finally, Ryan is also seen inciting and fighting with the crowds to the point that they start throwing stuff into the ring. It's almost admirable how much cheating he manages to sneak into a fight that probably won't take that long. It's not even close that Aaron is cheating twice as hard as the next two biggest cheaters combined.
Yeah.
And they're bringing in squirrels, clones, and magic. Aaron Ryan did his cheating all on his own. This
all
guy's beyond
organic,
being banned from
baby.
competition. He's gonna be killed at this rate.
Wow, this game is a lot different than I thought it'd
WBA is
be.
going to have a hell of a lot of paperwork to go through to clear up these infractions. And without these cheaters, the league would probably be like 3 people, and one of those people would be Glass Joe, and that's not much of a league. So please accept my proposal for a new little Mac design to line up with the rest of these flagrant rule breakers.
So,
As you can see here that I gave him a gun.
You gotta give him more than 6 rounds, bro. That clone guy's gonna be an issue. You just gave him a gun. You're allowed to compete anywhere, bro. So much funnier than I thought it'd be. I was so good. I did not know that that Punch Out was such a crazy game. There's magic. There's. I mean, the cheater. Okay, I could see a boxing type game having that, but bear hugs, squirrel boxers. That's just crazy stuff I never thought I'd see, and it's just here. It just exists, and it just works. But. Careful for the guy casting. No, bro, don't even worry about that, bro. Somebody's got an iron knuckles in his goddamn punch out boxing glove. He missed one, but he does it in the sequel. There's a sequel. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, in an older title, you fight Mike Tyson. Ooh, and how hard is Mike Tyson? I like that. As always, the original video is gonna be at the top of the description down below in the video. But yeah, how hard is Mike Tyson? Think he was the final boss? Makes sense. Makes very much sense. He's the final boss, and he can one-shot Little Mac. Oh wow. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah. Bullet for hands. You know. I feel like the only way Little Mac would win that was if he follows this redesign to the T. You know, just give him a gun. It's the only way it'll work. It's the only way it'll work. Gotta be frame perfect in that one. Ooh, that's very cool. But as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll be catching you guys on the next one. This was very interesting, very fun to watch. And besides that, drink some water. Have a great day, and it's gonna be all for me. Bye bye.